is Daniel Linehan, and I'm a choreographer based in Brussels.
And I wanted them to say things like, Daniel, these are the thoughts that you made me think.
I define choreography quite openly as gathering different materials and placing them next to each other in time, either in sequence or simultaneously.
Ba 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 ba
Ba, ba, ba.
Since I come from dance, I'm often working with dance material or physical actions, but also I'm working with sometimes with text or with video or with photographic image or with song as materials that go alongside with the dance, and I try to create different relationships between these materials.
Body, body, body.
I approach it from a point of view of curiosity. I don't start with an image in my mind of how I want the result to be, but I really am saying, for example, what happens if I put this text with this movement? What does that produce? I don't know. So then I try different possibilities, and until I find something that is unexpected or surprising to me, and then also I hope that it's unexpected for the audience also.
Spinning, 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 spinning.
It will be a performance for myself and another dancer, so it's a duet, and we're working with a conversation that I recorded, and we're using the patterns of speech in this conversation as a rhythm for creating movement material. So all of the little hesitations in the speech or all of the sudden accelerations, all of these will be part of the rhythm of how the dance material is created.
What?
I am.
I'm excited to be involved in the Tate project because it's something I haven't done before, is to present a live broadcast over the internet, and I'm very curious how my way of working for the stage can translate into a very different medium.
All I have a thing that satisfies me sexually, and it's called absent present.
So I'm in London. It's 8 p.m. and I'm at Tate Modern. And you are not here with me, physically. I'm going to do a dance now that lasts for about 18 minutes. Spanish, he's from Chile. Roberto Bolaño. Yeah, and the book was called By Night in Chile. Basically, the book is one long paragraph. I mean, there's no paragraph breaks for like, I don't know, like 130 pages. But then, finally on the very last page, he starts a new paragraph. But it's just one sentence. It was something like, and then all of the shit really started. Yeah. I mean, I think this is a really good ending. Because, it's like it's suggesting something kind of mysterious, like, I don't know, what is this shit that he's talking about? Like, it hasn't been referenced anywhere earlier in the book. And then all of a sudden, the shit starts and like, what's gonna happen, you know? I have no idea. And I think it's also kind of nice how, like, he finally drops his train of thought. Like, finally at the end, there's this new paragraph with a new idea that has nothing to do with anything that came before. But then, the book, it just ends after that new idea is introduced. Wait, what do you mean? Yeah, but I didn't say anything about the story. I was just talking about, you know, the structure. Okay. Wait, but, I mean, how do you really know if something's a good ending then? If it's just like an ending completely in a void? I mean, don't you need to know something about what came before? Like, what is it an ending to? Yeah, I mean, in that case, then I don't really know if this is such a good ending. And then the shit really started. I mean, if I just think about that sentence all by itself as an ending to something, it's kind of like generic-y a bit. I don't know, like anything. I mean, what if we take this newspaper, like, okay, in the end of this article, it says, in Missouri, Santorum defeated Romney by more than 2-1, with Paul Ediston third. In Minnesota, Santorum also held a double-digit lead. Paul was second, Romney third. What? I mean, they should have, like, used a chart or something. It's just like a list of numbers. I can't even really follow what I just said. You know, if I think about it though, I mean, it's a terrible ending, it's totally boring, but I think I can kind of respect that attitude of like, the ending doesn't matter. Yeah, the ending is just like, okay, I'm fulfilling my function of giving you information, and when my work limit runs out, then that's it. I mean, I don't know, when you're making something, there's so much pressure about how it's gonna end. Like, the end is the most important part of the piece. But here it's just like, okay, the end is just completely equal to every other part of the article. It doesn't have like any special importance or anything. It's a little Cunningham-esque actually. I kind of like that. I mean, I think I can kind of like use this attitude more. Like, I don't know if this relates, but sometimes, right before I go to bed, I feel like I don't know, like I have to have a really awesome last moment before I fall asleep, like the perfect last moment. You know, I can't just watch something stupid on the internet and then go straight to bed. Like first, I have to read a few pages of my great book and then turn off the lights. Like I have this classical image of how a good day is supposed to end. And I think it's kind of stupid, like I think I'm asleep over it actually. I mean, yeah, like I need to be more like, what if the ending of my day doesn't matter so much? Like I don't need to give it so much specialness. Well, oh, yeah, there's this Hitchcock movie I just saw that has a really good ending. I think I still have it on my computer. Yeah, Spellbound. Here, I'll show it to you. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay. That's not the real ending, right? See, after that, there's this little, like, denouement where they're kissing, blah, blah, so happy. Oh, yeah, and then it says exit music. That's kind of funny. But yeah, I prefer to imagine that there's just that gunshot, and then it goes straight to exit music. That'd be a good ending. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's actually better as the beginning. Now that I think of it, like, all of us, the audience, like, we take on, at the very beginning, we take on this subjective viewpoint of committing suicide, basically. But it's more of a metaphor for, like, that the self is really just an illusion or whatever. You know, in order to start this thing, we all just have to empty ourselves completely of like any sense of having a self. And that's when the thing can really begin. Well, I don't know. What about in music? Like, what's a good song ending? Oh yeah, there's the Sonic Youth album I was listening to a lot. Sister. And I love the ending of the album, the last song where you let me find it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's that crazy scream, and then after it's that church bell sound in the background, but somehow it doesn't feel like it's a reference to church bells. I mean, or at least it doesn't feel like it has any religious reference somehow. It's like it's just this like primal scream, and then after there was that tense moment of the gunshot, but then that little stupid romantic scene after that kind of softens it a bit. But I don't know, I mean, there it feels more cheesy somehow in a way that this, I mean, this cheesiness potential, maybe with the church bells. I don't really take it that way. I mean, I don't really think you can take it that way. I don't know. If I think of other books I've read, let's see. Oh, yeah. I can go back to the words of the line again, actually, because The Savage Detectives. That is the best ending ever to anything. Look at this. Yeah, again, it's the sense of an ending that actually feels like an opening. It's like the book opens on into my life. Like the window is a frame, and the book is a frame. And when I finish reading the book, there's something outside the frame. It's like the frame dissolves, the frame of the book dissolves. And you know, when I was younger, my family was in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and they have this crazy history that, like in the 1800s or something, they predicted the end of the world. And everyone was really excited about it. Like they were excited that God's kingdom would come, but they were like really specific about it. Like, someone in the church had interpreted scripture correctly, and it had revealed that the world would end on, I don't remember, June 26, 1838, for example. I mean, probably not that day, but like some really specific day like that. But that day came, and then nothing happened. And it's a bit like they had a frame of reference, like in their lives, they had this frame of knowledge that the world would end, and they really believed it. And then, that day, the end of the world, that day when the world would end, that day came to an end, and then the next day started, and nothing had happened. And it's like, yeah, they were expecting an end, but instead they just continued. What's it like for the experience to continue after it has supposedly ended? I don't know, maybe that's not related to what I was talking about. But anyway, what's that? Well, I don't know. Oh yeah, I think Kafka also has some really good endings, actually. Like the castle? I mean, he never finished writing the book, so it's kind of, I don't know, it's like an unintentional ending, but that's what's really great about it.
Like here, I'll show you, it goes like this. She held out a trembling hand to Kay and had him sit down beside her. She spoke with great difficulty. It was difficult to understand her, but what she said. That's it.
I mean, yeah. I guess I'm not so sure about it, as an ending all by itself.
It's
Maybe lacking, but when you come to it at the end of the book, there's something, funny about it, and kind of jolting, but still. What do I want to say? I mean, I never came across an ending.
Hi and welcome to the performance room, where I have great pleasure to introduce Daniel Linehan, who's the choreographer who made the piece tonight. And we're going to be able to answer your questions directly if you send them in through Google+, Twitter, Facebook or YouTube. And I've actually got a couple here already, and something that I asked you straight away about the piece actually is what the text, what was the text?
Yes.
Tom Jackson in Brooklyn has said, "I wish I could have been part of that conversation." Where does the dialogue come from? Is it real?
Well, the dialogue is real in the sense that it came from an actual conversation I had, but it was a conversation with myself in a way. So I have this practice of doing self-interviews where I speak to myself almost like a divided self in a way, where I'm both the interviewer and the interviewee. And so, yeah, in this particular text came from a recording of one of those self-interviews, and the kind of pacing of the text was then transcribed into the text on the screen, so that the pacing of the speech matches the same timing as the pacing of when the words appear on the screen.
Is that something you've done before to generate work, or
no,
this is a new direction?
The first time, yeah.
Yeah. But using text, I mean.
Yeah, I've used text in other pieces before. But yeah, usually it starts from writing the text down, or sometimes trying out, usually it starts from writing it down. So this time it was different, that nothing was written down until it was written down in the screen.
And there's a question from Annie Abrahams in Montpellier asking if there's any relationship to sign language. I guess there was this very nice interplay, I thought, between you speaking the words, seeing the figures of the words written, and the movements of your body.
There wasn't a direct relationship with sign language, although I was thinking a bit that the whole body could be expressive, so not just the arms and hands and face, but also that a gesture of a leg could also be expressive. But part of what we were expressing is the rhythm of the speech itself. So it's not that each word has a correlate in the kind of movement we do, but it's more the rhythm of how that word is said influences the rhythm of our movement. So that later on, if it's the same word but in a different rhythm, then it's a different movement. So it's a bit thinking that the movement comes more from the speech than the written word.
Okay.
Like
that's interesting.
In the written word,
intonation and pattern more than.
Because in speech there's different pitch that has a different meaning, and there's different rate of change that also influences kind of how the conversation is going and how the meaning of the speech is received. So it was more dealing a bit with this tempo and intonation, translating that into movement, rather than that a certain word would have a specific sign or movement that would go along with it.
And did you have some kind of vocabulary of movement or gestures established in advance?
No, it's I developed the movement vocabulary by starting from the beginning. I started correlating the movement to the rhythm of the speech, and also sometimes doing counterpoints. So when there's silent in the speech, that's when I would move, and then when I start speaking, then I do stillness. So the relationship was a bit fluid in terms of how I would counterpoint the movement and the speech. But there wasn't a vocabulary determined in advance. It's more that the vocabulary was kind of self-defined as I kept producing it. And once I had produced 30 seconds of material, then the next 30 seconds kind of made sense in relation to the first 30 seconds, and so on.
So there wasn't like a code of a meta message that you're broadcasting out there to somebody who could decipher it.
No.
But it's a beautiful relationship, I thought. There's a question from Ernesto in Miami, in the USA. Would you consider this a global artwork on account of it kind of being distributed worldwide by the web? I guess that's a broader question, really, of what it means to make a work broadcast in this way, which is not how you usually work.
No, I'm much more used to, so I'm a choreographer making work for the stage or for a studio, and so I'm much more used to having the audience in the room when the event takes place. And so it was a bit bizarre to know that there's a lot of people out there watching, but I have no direct relationship with them. That I somehow feel that they're in the room, but virtually not. I don't feel their physical presence as much. But in relation to this question, I imagine that the fact that different people can watch this live performance in very different geographical locations at the exact same moment somehow makes it so that the audience can be larger than just performing in a certain city and having people from that city come to that particular performance, but that there can be a larger global audience.
But do you miss that localness and reciprocity? Does that feel strange when you're working like this? Maybe it's too early to say because you've just done it.
Yeah, I miss it, but I'm also somehow happy to try this other experience. I mean, actually, I feel I had a bit of stress, but I feel a bit more calm to not see the people directly, but to kind of know in the abstract that they're out there, but I don't feel their presence, so I felt a bit more calm in the performance of it.
I guess we were thinking originally in setting this up about video artists and performance artists using the studio straight to camera, and that was a kind of feedback loop that artists were often using originally to check or look at their own work, which you were able to do here too.
Yeah,
so there's almost a more interior kind of contemplative way of working maybe than the normal performance mode. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, especially when I perform in my own work, I feel like I can never see it from the outside. I can record a video of it, but the actual work is in this direct relationship with the audience in the room, so there's something always missing. Whereas here, I know I'm building it for this live webcast, so somehow I feel like I can already see what the work will be from the outside, even as I'm inside the work itself, which is new for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a question from Celine Goldman in Oxford, who asked, did you start your work with the space in mind first or the other way round? Like, is this a piece of dance you would have made or are making regardless of the space, the situation?
Well, I mean, the original idea behind this work, I had started working on it before I knew about this opportunity in performance room. So at first I conceived it for the stage, but then once I knew about this, that I would be doing a performance for performance room, I thought that my conception of the piece made a lot of sense in this space. I mean, we don't need a lot of space, and we have this kind of direct relationship with this focal point downstage because we're reading the text. So somehow this focal point towards the text and towards the camera would kind of establish a direct link with the viewer who's kind of looking on the other side of that, and I felt like it somehow had a resemblance to like a testimonial on YouTube or something where people are speaking directly to the camera, but twisted in a different way, where the speech is also accompanied by this movement, and that it's also doubled by another person.
And your whole theme of the piece was about endings.
Yes.
In lots of different ways. Could you say something about why you chose that as a starting point?
Yeah, I mean, it's partly that in dance, when I'm making a dance, I'm not usually working with a kind of narrative that would have a plot that leads towards an ending, so it's always a bit mysterious, like, why is it continuing and why and when should it end? So I was interested to kind of call into mind the ending right away from the beginning, so that to feel like something's leading towards something, but and I imagine that there's kind of, with talking about endings, that there's anticipation about what the ending will be. So I feel like because it's a time-based work, it kind of already has this direction forward in time. And I mean, I was also thinking about end in terms of the ends and the means, and that the speech is usually used as a means to reach the end of communication. But then in the process of working, I was at first just using the speech as a means for something different, as a means for creating a movement vocabulary. So I was thinking of also kind of things that have normally a certain end, to use them for a different end. And kind of a play on words, but it related to my relationship with the end and the goal and what things are moving towards, and kind of also twisting that around a bit. And
exactly, because the end kept becoming part of the process in the way you kept staging a kind of fake ending and then working through it, or rather a pause where we thought it might be the end and it wasn't.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. There's a question from Zach Keys in London. How did you collaborate with the dancer Anne-Line?
Well,
do you work together often?
Yes, we've worked together in 2 or 3 other processes before. This particular process, I started already with the vocabulary. I had built it by myself, so then I was teaching it to her, and we were making some changes and some refinements to what we were doing. But yeah, I come with the material and the ideas, but then also during the process it's a dialogue. And we both stand outside and watch the video and give our opinions about what we're seeing, and so it was also a process of dialogue with her. And also in other processes, I usually work in this way with the dancers, that it's not only dictating what they should do, but letting there be a conversation about what's going to happen. And
then you're in the work too, so I guess her view on the work is also important, like you said, as a kind of outside view.
Yeah, I mean, I can't be objective when I see myself on the screen, so she helps me to understand what I'm doing.
I mean, that was nice too, the mirroring. I really liked the whole synchronicity of it, but it was kind of in and out of sync at certain points.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
quite pleasing.
we felt like we could give ourselves the freedom to be in sync or not in sync, and it's not that was the goal in the end, that we're in perfect unison the whole time, but that we both have this knowledge of this vocabulary, and we have the freedom to choose to go along with that or to make tiny adjustments departing from it.
But it's interesting, given how you said the conversation was generated, that you didn't choose to kind of mirror yourself more exactly, like have two men, two of you somehow.
Yeah.
There were these different ways that the mirroring was also a refraction or a space of difference. There's a question from Tom Parkinson about why the conversation focused on, well, asking why did the conversation focus on works of literature?
Yeah, but we also referenced movies.
Referenced lots of Adventists, Seventh-day Adventists.
Yeah, we referenced, but it's true, there was 3 literary references, and there's like 1 film reference, 1 music reference. I think somehow when I'm making my work and thinking about endings, it's somehow I relate, or some of the endings that have been most striking to me have been in works of literature, especially since you build up for days or weeks of reading something and it's building towards something, and then the ending can either be satisfying or unsatisfying. So somehow when I'm thinking about when is it an effective ending, my mind maybe tends to go towards literature because of that reason. But yeah, in the work we also reference endings in newspaper article, music, a film, the idea of the end of the world. So
I like your thing about the end of the day, needing
yeah.
the perfect end of the day before you go to sleep.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah,
somehow
how to
related
end
to
the
that.
day.
Yeah. Okay, we've just got time for one more question from Reuben Watson King in New York, which is, what's your ideal setting for a performance?
Ooh.
Well.
This could be a difficult question. I don't think I have an ideal. Like I really enjoy working in very different spaces, and even sometimes doing the same performance. I mean, one thing that's satisfying about repeating a performance is being able to do it in different spaces and seeing how it feels when you're in a small room and people are close to you, and seeing how it feels when you're in a very large hall and people are far away from you. Because also it helps the performance evolve and change to have this experience of the same performance in different spaces.
Yeah. I mean, in a proscenium type theatre, I guess it's pretty different than a studio space or a gallery.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll have done the same piece, but have done it in a proscenium stage, and then transfer it to a studio. And I enjoy how the piece changes in the different locations.
Different formats.
Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid. Well, thank you ever so much for
thank
answering
you.
the questions, and thanks to everybody who submitted them. That is our last performance room for 2013, but we will be back in beginning of next year. Thank you, and thanks, Daniel.
Thanks.